So good morning. I have the great privilege of being at this conference for the 6th time. It's great. I appreciate coming here. I appreciate meeting some great students, some exciting people, and my background as Director of Retail with AirWatch, it's always great to hear when I'm hearing about all the new technology advances that Macy's is going to utilize mobile devices, and that's the business of AirWatch, so thank you very much. Today I have the privilege of introducing Joe Bona from CBX Retail. The guy has more experience in retail. I think you're really going to enjoy his presentation. But, you know, they gave me all this great stuff to talk about and to introduce him. But I just thought that I would pull up, him being in the merchandising and the advertising side, their website. And I think their website really gives you a great idea about what you're going to hear. So I'm just going to read off a few little things that grabbed my attention. When you go to their website, the first thing it says, we are a brand agency. We connect people to brands, environments, and companies. We believe in fundamentals. We like to be social. And I have to talk about this later. It says, why pizza, tacos, and Pop-Tarts have gone crazy. I don't understand that one. And it also says we take our cultures very seriously. But the last line on the website I really like. It says, imagination is more important than knowledge, but we're pretty smart too. So ladies and gentlemen, Joe Bona.
Thank you. Well, good morning. So I could have used an extra 5 minutes outside. I come from New York. We can't seem to turn the corner. It's 56 and rainy every day. I came here, and it was 68 yesterday and 84 in New York, so go figure. But anyways, it's great to be on Tucson, and thanks for having me. Just as a little background, not to spend too much time, but in the world of retail design, we touch a lot of retail spaces of all kinds of shapes and sizes. And it could be a pharmacy in New York City. It could be a 1 million square feet department store in South Korea. It could be reinventing a gas station in Latin America, or it could be a shop in Europe. So the universe of retail is wide and vast, and we work on a wide range of projects around the globe. But today, today I'm really here to talk about rethinking the role of the physical store and what we need to think about as we go forward and the impact of digital and what effect that's having on the physical space. And hopefully you'll see some things today that maybe are a little bit inspiring. I came across this, speaking of the future, recently, and it's a 1950s page from Popular Mechanics. And it says that by the year 2000, you'll be able to shop by picture phone and on your television. Who would have known that in 50 years ago that they actually would have predicted where we are today? Pretty amazing. And the thing that's even more crazy to me is here we are today, and we're thinking that all this technology, we keep reading about the death of retail as we know it because of the digital world. And that mobile technology and digital technology is going to continue to put huge pressure on brick and mortar locations. We actually think that it's helped retailers. And we heard from Terry, talking about how they're embracing technology and they're finding ways to sort of connect to their customers in more meaningful ways than they never could before. So I actually would argue that it's not a threat, but it's actually just another tool, another tool of engagement, and they'll continue to find ways to integrate technology into the retail world. And digital has also caused retail to be everywhere. So it's no longer online. It's no longer just digital. It's happening at railway stations, and maybe you came across this a while ago. This was, I think, a YouTube video that might have gone viral a while back, but it's a subway station in Korea. And Home Base, which is a division of Tesco, decided that they would try an experiment, and they've actually got product digitally displayed on the walls of the subway station. You could actually go up, scan that, and by the time you get on the train, get back home, theoretically it'll be delivered to your front door. So what digital has done is really sort of made the world of retail everywhere and anywhere we could possibly think of. And it's really transformed shopping from an activity that takes place in a physical store, and it creates a whole new value exchange. We could watch our favorite television show, and at the same exact time on the screen, we could actually take a look and see what they're wearing and buy clothes from our favorite actor or actresses. We could be at the beach reading our favorite digital magazine, come across an ad and see a nice pair of shoes, and we could buy it right there online. And we could even try a ring on in the comfort of our couch without ever having to leave our home. So the digital age has certainly transformed everything that we think about shopping. Oh, sorry. What we used to think of retail was traditional brick and mortar, maybe catalog, but it was really all about brick and mortar, and that was really what we thought of retailing. Today it's fragmented into multiple channels, as you see here, and each one has a different value exchange. I can go to Starbucks and get a cup of coffee. I can go to my supermarket and get a Starbucks cup of coffee. I can go to a Starwoods hotel and get a free Starbucks cup of coffee for breakfast in the morning. Each one is a different value exchange, and the pressure that retailers have is to figure out what all of those touch points mean, and that the experience at every one of those touch points is the same, so that how they communicate their brand, how they interact with consumers is going to be important. In some cases, they don't even control the actual transaction, but that's the task of retailers, is to figure out all those details. Ultimately, products and services increasingly will exist in the cloud of information. It'll aggregate data, provide us with reviews, ratings, attributes, price. We won't even need a PC. Somehow, magically in space, we'll be able to sort of just figure it all out, gain information and gain access. So it will continue to be putting pressure on the physical store. Today, there's sort of two value exchanges that retailers have to deal with. One is the virtual store, and one is the physical store. Each one has their own set of expectations for consumers. I could buy a sweater online. I can buy a sweater at a store. They both have very different value exchanges, and really people interact with the product very differently. Some people have to try it on. They want to see what the fit's like. Other people know what it is. They want it. They just take the chance and they buy it online. But understanding the dynamic is pretty important. The physical store actually has a higher cost of operation. You got more employees, you got lights and air conditioning and all the things that go on of running a physical store. So the pressure of how do I make that physical store more relevant and engaging and make it worth the effort is even more important. So we have to reassess the role of the physical store. It can't be just what it used to be, a distributor of other people's goods. We've got to sort of connect to people in new and meaningful ways. It can't just be a big box of other goods and services. Connecting to people in new and different ways will be really important for the future. I don't know how many of you watch the Mad Men on television, but even Don Draper had an opinion on this, and so I'm going to play a quick clip. So even Don Draper knows that customers have changed. They want more. They're more demanding. The thing I don't know if you'll ever go to a department store and not see clearance on the first floor. Maybe the department stores will never be so bold to take away that and move in with a restaurant concept. But what we do know is that something has to change to get people to continue to want to be involved in shopping at the physical store. As much as online is going to continue to put pressure on price and sort of siphon customers away from shopping at stores, we have to find other ways of engagement to get people to continue to shop stores. The easy answer, stores must sell something they can't get everywhere else. It's about unique product services, unique experiences and assortments. But I actually think it's got to be even more than that. I think the physical store has to be a place that captures all of our senses. It's all about sight, smell, sound, sensory stimulation and personal interaction. These are the things that you can't get with a 2D experience, and so retailers have to figure out what is this 3D experience that's just going to elevate our business to a different level. Some of the things we like to look at are just human behavior, things that inspire people, and maybe you're wondering what a photograph of a church has to do with retail. Well, there are still things today where the digital world doesn't really impact in a meaningful way people's behavior. I could still, if I'm a believer and a follower, I can see Joel Osteen on television. I could probably access him on the internet. I could buy a book. I could listen to him on the radio. But there's something about the sense of community, of people coming together as one. There's a social interaction that we still do. Even though all of us in this room have phones and iPads and all the other technology tools, there's still something about being together. Even this group here, there's just something that can't be replaced about being with people. I'd argue that a football game is much better seen on television. I could actually see the toe line, where they, went out of bounds, or I could see a play over and over again on television, an instant replay. But you can't replicate the sound, the experience, the thrill of being in a stadium filled with screaming fans. And even movie theaters are changing, and it's still about creating a social environment. AMC's experimenting with a new format where you have almost airline type trays, and you can get liquor, you can get food while you're watching big screen theater. And you ask, well, why? I could sit in my own living room, I could watch a movie on my cell phone, on my iPad, I could watch movies at home through Netflix. But there's still something social about being together, coming together. And I think these are the things that we believe are still important for rethinking the physical store. Lululemon was just one quick example. We have nothing to do with the design of the stores, but sometimes we like to just look at other brands just for inspiration and see what other people are doing. And while they've had some recent problems with clothing malfunctions, one of the highest grossing retailers in dollars per square foot, they do some pretty interesting things. And if you actually sort of learn a little bit about them, only 1/4 of their retail proposition is merchandise. Only 1/4 of their retail proposition is merchandise. The other 3/4 are the stores, the community, the places where they operate, and it's their people, it's the staff. And those 4 things combined help really create a sense of destination, a sense of purpose, and really sort of brings people to the stores. It's not just about the merchandise. They actually leverage their space and have yoga classes. And so we saw from the examples of sense of community, they do build a sense of community. It's not just about the merchandise in the store, but here they have yoga classes. They're bringing people in. There's a sense of camaraderie. They're working together. They have similar beliefs. And it's this connection and attachment to the brand that really allows them to sort of do very, very well. So it's about connections, and it's about connecting people, and connecting brands, connecting stores, and it's all these connection points that we think are important in building retail spaces. I got 3 examples of some work that we've been involved with, and they're kind of diverse examples, and I selected them for that reason because they're not all high-profile luxury brands. Excuse me. This actually is a great project that's kind of close to my heart just because it's a good feel-good story. But Fair and Square is a brand that's just been developed, and it's for Philabundance, which is one of the largest food banks in the Philadelphia area. And one of the things that they the way that they stay in business is through donation. If people don't donate food, they can't give the food away. And as the economy has really put a lot of pressure on a lot more people needing food because they've lost jobs and whatever it might be, they're under pressure to find ways to sort of reach people because food donations are going down. So they've come up with this idea of developing the first non-for-profit supermarket in the US. And it's really in Chester, PA, which is one of these food deserts, of about 30,000 plus people, by the way, so it's not a small community. But they really only have fast food establishments. There are no supermarkets. There's bodegas and dollar stores, but if anybody wanted to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, it wouldn't be in this neighborhood. It's just a food desert, and there's nothing of nutritional value that they would be able to go shop for. So part of the objective and the reason why they came to us was to help them figure out how do we take this idea of being the nation's first non-for-profit grocery store and develop it as a prototype format. And if successful, the idea is that perhaps we could reach other food deserts and other communities around the country. The format design needs to be clean, well lit. Part of the driving motivation is to change consumer perceptions and behavior. A lot of what they want to do is about education. It isn't just about providing a better alternative, but it's about educating the community on the reason for nutrition. And so they're not just bringing a new store into the marketplace, they're actually trying to change behavior and educate people. So the store has to be, we talked about being well lit, convenient, positions to be successful, and offer a true shopping experience. One of the things through research we found out is a lot of consumers felt, you show them pictures of renderings, and they say, oh, that's really beautiful, but they'll never build that here. Everybody's left. They've left us on our own. And so consumers in this marketplace actually feel that people don't feel good enough about themselves, and so therefore nobody's interested in sort of coming into these deserts, food deserts. So it's funny that they're quite cynical. So this is really about establishing a sense of pride, a personality, and actually trying to design a store. We didn't want to design a store that looked like a food bank. This is actually going to be a real retail environment. So we had to align the design direction with a lot of their core values: education, community, pride. And at the end, it's all about the people. Capture the happy, fresh, and approachable spirit through the use of bright brand identity colors, simple materials, simple, clean, and modern environment. And when we talk about design, there's a lot of different levers, and some of you probably know a lot of this. It's maybe a little design 101, but there is no one element that sort of supersedes the other. Each one has a different role to play. So how we lay out the store is a product of this process. The visual language that we create is part of this process. The architecture, the environment, the lighting, the merchandising, these are all different levers, and how we play with these different levers and move them is how we create the final product. So fair and square, the new logo. Sort of a color palette that's a bit bright and optimistic. And a visual language, how we provide communications in the store. These are all sort of things that we thought, hard and fast and really sort of spent a lot of time thinking about. How we wanted to lay out the store. They actually took over a former supermarket that had been vacant for over 20 years. So the bones of the supermarket were there, loading docks and those kinds of things. And so, our job was to now figure out how do we want to lay out the store, where people were going to enter, what was their first impression. And so you could see through some of these renderings, the first idea is that when you come in, we talked about simple materials, bright, simple colors, so there's a touch of, brightness and optimistic, can feel about the store. Walking into the produce section, again, this is all about nutrition, so produce being an important part of this mix. It was important that it was, front and center. And then finally, one of the maybe important elements of this was really a community center, because education is really intended to be a big part of their go-to-market strategy. This is really about making sure that when they go into these towns, it's not just about cheap, affordable food, but it's about nutritional food that they can't otherwise get in these neighborhoods. And so it's about education, teaching people the reason why you should eat healthy, and those kinds of things. So the community center, again, moving into the community, being a sense of pride and optimism for the folks that live there is an important part of what they're hoping to achieve. So we're still in the development stages, as you could see, so coming to Chester soon. Hopefully sometime this summer it'll be open. But it just shows that brands and touching people, being a part of the community, you don't have to be a high-end fashion brand, but even in a food desert in Chester, PA, the importance of community connection are really important things. In the other end of the spectrum is 1 million square feet of department store space that we worked on in South Korea. So really a lot of the same things. How do you connect people? And we talked a little earlier about, we can't just be an aggregator of goods, of other people's goods in one space. Certainly in Korea, there's no shortage of department stores or places to shop for a lot of the same and similar products. So what is it about this project that will get consumers to want to come and shop at this location versus a competitor department store who literally built a brand new building just down the road? One of the interesting things of this property, it's 2 buildings that we had to connect as one. The floor plates were not at the same elevation, so the 3rd floor in one building was here and the 3rd floor in another building was there. How we made those connection points seem seamless was a bit of a challenge. And the other interesting thing you'll see in the lower right-hand corner, Arario was a gentleman, a bit of an eccentric guy, who was an art collector of sort of odd pieces of art, and he had his gallery on the property. So we thought, well, maybe it'd be interesting, since he's the landowner, that perhaps one opportunity is to use the art in a way to imbue that in part of the experience to make it a bit more unique. This is in the city of Cheonan. It's just outside of Seoul. It's actually a college town, probably not much different than here. So a lot of people were starting to move there. There was a younger population base. And so we knew that we needed to do something a little bit different, but at the same time, Shinsegae was a mature brand, well-established brand, and how do we marry sort of this new, young, optimistic idea with the classic heritage of the brand of Shinsegae? So we talked a little bit about REO Gallery. And again, these are sort of the connections that we're looking for. How do we make the experience a bit more defining, a bit more unique, a bit more ownable? And so being able to tap into the owner for art, we then took a look at where could be these little moments throughout the journey where we can create little galleries. You can see on the outside of the entry, there's a sculpture of parts of mechanical parts, and so you start to already get a sense of this eclectic art collection right from the outside of the space. This is one of the bridges between the 2 buildings, and again, what we try to do is create these little moments so as you're walking from one building to the other. It felt a bit seamless, but there were these sort of moments where we just sort of curated different stories around some of the artwork. Now, at the end of the day, there's still a traditional department store, and we still had to marry up traditional retailing that you would typically find in a department store with some of these other new ways of trying to engage consumers. Even in the kids department, we try to use technology, some of the interactive technology where there's projections on the floor. Excuse me. Kids could, kick the ball. The ball comes back to them. So it's kind of interesting, but you could see here the 3 kids playing with each other. But it's these little kinds of things that help just make the experience a little bit more engaging. It's this idea of connection on a bigger scale, and it's a way of sort of making this experience a bit more enjoyable. There's also a roof garden, so other ways of connecting to people to make the experience a bit more of a destination. So they're VIPs, they're the folks that shop on a regular basis and spend a lot of money with them, have special lounges. There's actually a roof garden where you can go up and just enjoy some of the sculpture in this outdoor garden. But these are some of the amenities that help create a sense of place and a sense of purpose and destination. They have a cultural center. The cultural center is intended, again, to be a destination point where they could hold events and other kinds of activities. So again, it's making the shopping mall, the department store, a bit more of an engaging experience by interjecting art, technology, some elements of fun, and a sense of community into the space. And then the final, I'll get this right yet. The final case study is some work that we did for Duane Reade. And Duane Reade is maybe one of the best retail stories that I've sort of seen in a few years. This was a company that really reinvented themselves. It was sort of the pharmacy chain that every New Yorker loved to hate. But they had great assets. They had great locations. They had great foot traffic in front of every one of their stores. And so the bones of the business were quite good and quite healthy. As they had lost their way a little bit, they had brought in a new management team. They were very dynamic and energetic. They developed some new strategies, some new go-to-market ideas. And they really sort of transformed the business into something quite new and different. The idea was all about New York living made easy. Our job was to help them figure out what does that mean and how to bring that to life. And we started with packaging and private label design for them. And so a lot of what we try to do is figure, and always in the back of our mind, the thing that kept driving us was this sense of community, but it was the New York community. And so New York living made easy had to get translated into package design, it had to get translated into store design, and that was sort of really what drove a lot of the work that you saw. And they wanted to really sort of transform themselves from being a pharmacy that had stuff to a retail destination that had a pharmacy. It's a bit of semantics, but it's sort of turning the equation a little bit upside down. So as we do with every project, we sort of start off with this idea, okay, New York living made easy. What does that mean? What does it look like? What could it feel like? And we develop boards and ideas and strategies all around how we bring some of these ideas to life. It's creating we're starting to create the visual language. On some of the packaging that you could see here, they all have a little bit of a New York tone of voice. So even just the name Delish, sort of has a little bit of a New York edge to it. And the two cashews on bar stools in a bar. And if you look at a lot of the packaging for Delish, it all had a little bit of a New York edge to it. Or, the peanut butter cups that have the New York skyline. So again, everything was driven around this idea of New York living made easy. At their entry point, their value brand actually has no name. We actually use the skyline of iconic New York locations, the Statue of Liberty, the Brooklyn Bridge, and so forth. And these became sort of the idea for their sort of value brand proposition. And it's been actually quite successful for them. The other thing that we helped create was the Duane Reader. So the name of the company is Duane Reade. They had this monthly circular. I think this was maybe a monthly circular. And we decided to make it more than just about promotions and specials in the store. And we called it the Duane Reader. You could open it up, and you could actually get the actual times, ice times for the rink at the ice skating rink at the NBC studio there. I lost the name of it for a second. And things like that. So there's a lot of different kinds of very New York-centric kind of information. And it's all in the Duane Reader. So it was, again, just a different way of being a part of the community, making another connection with people in a new and different sort of way. The store also was translated into sort of 3 distinct categories: how I look, how I feel, and what I need now. How I look was about beauty. How I feel was obviously pharmacy. They were still at the end of the day a pharmacy, and that needed to be a continuing, robust part of their business. And what I need now, they actually thought that they could be New York's convenience store. Because there really weren't any. There were a lot of bodegas and a lot of small little independent grocers, a couple half-hearted chains in the city that weren't very good, but they really thought that there was an opportunity to be a convenience store. And the reason for that is they had foot traffic. How do I get more people in the front door more often? And how do I sell them a higher ticket? And it was all geared around these sort of 3 categories. Beauty became an important way of sort of suggesting and telling people that things are different. If you would have gone to an old Duane Reade store, 2-3 years ago, aisles were tight, cardboard shippers in the aisle. If someone was in the aisle, it was almost uncomfortable to walk around them. Real estate in New York is so expensive that it was, merchandise from floor to ceiling. They were just really hard stores to shop. And this happens to be one of their flagship locations. So, I'll preface, not all stores look this glamorous, but their flagship location, beautiful marble columns, high ceilings. But if you go to any one of their locations, the Look Boutique much would look the same. And it was a way for them to get into the beauty business in a more credible way than they were before. So instead of selling beauty on metal shelving, their goal was to really get into the beauty business in ways that female shoppers actually came to expect from other sources. In some of their flagship locations, it's not just about beauty products. We heard from Jonathan about Clarins and the introduction of Oz. In some of their flagship locations, they have nail salons, hair salons. They've got digital technology where, you could scan your face and you could put lipstick on and dye your hair blonde, and you can see what it all looks like digitally before you make any actual purchase decisions. So it's a way of sort of expanding the category into new and different meaningful ways. As I said, pharmacy continues to be obviously their core business. When we first started, they were owned by a private equity firm. They since, as you may know, have been purchased by Walgreens. And Walgreens really was a much better pharmacy operator than Duane Reade. And so a lot of the work that the Walgreens folks had developed over the years and implementing new and creative ideas around pharmacy were quickly implemented into a lot of the Duane Reade stores. So the idea of on-site doctors and clinics, things that really were unheard of a few years ago, slowly started to creep into the Duane Reade network. And then in another one of their flagship locations, downtown, in the Wall Street area, I'd actually argue that's a pretty big food desert. You've got so many people that work in the downtown area in New York, but there aren't a lot of places to eat. And after 9/11, as people slowly have come back to moving into the neighborhood, there still isn't a lot of infrastructure. So being able to be the destination for lunch, Upmarket Cafe was created, and it really offers a wide variety of fresh-made sushi, fresh-made juices, yogurts. You could sort of do a self-serve yogurt, add your toppings. And, all of these things you have to just remember is in a pharmacy. So, imagine your own traditional pharmacy of a few years ago and now walking into this pharmacy and walking to, this level of food service, really, sort of mind-boggling. And you see another little example of that. And then the other thing that they did fairly well is we think of New York as one big community, when in fact there are many. New York City is made up of many, many communities, and sometimes even just a few blocks away, the dynamic is very different than just down the street. In Brooklyn, in Williamsburg, which is sort of a new up-and-coming area. A lot of young folks were moving into the area, and there wasn't a lot going on there. One way to connect, and the community actually initially was upset knowing that Duane Reade was going to come into the marketplace. But I think they've now soon embraced him because a lot of the young folks, this is the place that they get their beer, and they actually created what we branded Brew York City, which is a growler barn. If you don't know what growlers are, they're these glass containers. And they sell, I think, just New York microbrews. And you could bring in the glass container, they'd fill it up, you could take it home. And then for refill price, they would rinse it out, clean it, and then refill it and tap it off and on your way with another growler of beer. So again, these are the little things that they do is micromanaging by market. So even within New York City, they're able to sort of go into individual markets and understand the dynamic from Brooklyn to Wall Street. You won't find sushi at every location, but you'll find it at Wall Street. You won't find beer in every location, but you'll find it in Williamsburg. So these are the little things that they do to connect to the community in which they operate. And these are, I think, some of the important lessons that hopefully you'll take away. So in the end, it's all about connecting with people. It's emotion, theatrics equals experience. Experience prompts the memory that helps inspire your customers. It could add excitement and drama to routine transaction, and its storytelling ability can energize brand culture and drive loyalty. So again, for us, it's about connection. It's connecting brands with people, people with brands, and finding those ways of connecting to the broader community. And we think that's the role of retail in the future, and it will continue to evolve and grow. And I'd like this, photo because it reminds me, retail has been around for over 2,000 years. The hawker who used to stand at the front of the Forum selling spices is really no different than the hawkers of today. It's just that the hawkers of today use cell phones and other kinds of technology, but we're still hawking goods. The principles have never changed. The dynamics have changed. How we reach consumers, how we talk to consumers, the community in which we live and operate will never really go away. I think the fundamentals stay the same. It's how we embrace all this new technology to make the experience richer and different. So if we have any questions, I'd be happy to take it, and thank you. Hi.
So you showed some great work, thank you. I have a question about what CBX does.
Yep.
And the omni-channel trend that we hear so much about at this conference. Do you believe there is a future or a present trend about omni-channel retail design? And if so, how is it being approached? Or how would you approach it?
Well, I think for us, it really is, we try to start anything that we touch by understanding, who are we talking to. And so how we would start is, first of all, understanding who we're talking to. What do they need? What's the medium? What are the things that motivate them to their purchase decisions? And I think once we get a bit better educated on understanding that, it's a bit easier then to sort of solve for the problem. And I think, omni-channel is, I think retail is going to be in a wide variety of areas. I think it's not going to be just online. It's not going to be store. I mentioned the Starbucks example. I just think the universe of where brands sell their goods and services have to be connected in some way. They have to be connected. So is omni-channel part of retail? Is retail part of omni-channel? Is digital part? I don't know, but they all have to be connected in some seamless ways because you want the experience to be the same no matter where I am, where I experience the brand. In my view, that the experience should be quite similar. And so somehow it's connecting all those pieces together.